We are now recording.
Woohoo.
Hi, welcome back to episode 5. This is Nick.
I'm JD.
This is the Dudecast. So yeah, we were kind of talking off camera about YouTube and creation and being a creative individual and kind of how things have changed over the past 10 years. YouTube is so huge now. And I mean, it was already big 10 years ago, but just people's perception of it now is so different than it used to be. Like, I remember looking at it going like, this is going to be huge. This is the next biggest thing. Like, people are going to be able to make like an actual living and a brand out of themselves or their store or their whatever it is. And like, I saw it coming and I tried, but I've never really been able to really get it going.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know if that's because of like my personality. Like, I don't translate onto camera well. Maybe I'm too ugly. Maybe I just haven't found the right bent. Like, I haven't figured out exactly the right pitch to come in at yet. Or maybe I'm just not that good.
That's all those things, they're all distinct possibilities. I think there's a couple things. Number one, and I'll kind of go in sequence, to go in sequence of how you sort of phrase things. Number one, I think it is totally viable to have a career on YouTube and make money on YouTube. Yeah. I think that's a viable thing that people can do now. You can aspire to do that and work to do that. The thing is, I think at this juncture, though, is that you either have to be, what kind of addresses some of the other stuff, is you either have to be that personality that shines, that you're built for TV. You're the Brad Pitt, whatever personality is going to shine through and translate well. Not everybody can be a movie star. I mean, we've got top tier movie stars. We've got guys that slog it out as journeymen, and we've got guys that,
extras.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's the whole gambit there. Yeah. And they all make a living. And then there's people that can't even break into
Can never get into it. Yeah.
YouTube's the same thing.
Absolutely.
So you're going to have your top tier guys. You're going to have your journeymen. You're going to have people that, are just kind of there. And you're going to have everybody else. Yeah. And, that's kind of it. And the other part of it is that if you have money, you can probably accelerate a lot of those things. So if you have the money to get your face out there, it's, like old school music,
For sure. Pay for marketing.
An A&R guy comes around, sees you at a shitty club. You're okay at music. You got some personality. We just need to get you in front of eyes. And then they pump a whole bunch of money into you. You get in front of a bunch of eyes, and then people embrace you. Yeah. Again, you still have to have that enough charisma to pull that off. Sure. You can't be, a shoegazer band necessarily. Yeah.
And, they had their time.
They had their time. They definitely did. There's a reason it's a term.
Yeah, exactly. But, so again, I was saying off camera, we were talking, and I alluded a little bit in the last podcast. I'm kind of like, I'm at the precipice, I would say, of a major change or shift. I put out a tweet, I think 3 days ago or a week ago or whatever, where I was thinking like, so for those of you that don't know, and I don't know who you would be that are watching, well, there's got to be people that watch the podcast or listen to the podcast that don't know about our other channels. Anyway, so my other channel that I have on YouTube is called Samurai Fingers, and I've had it for about 10 years. And primarily I was doing have been doing like music reviews, gear reviews, guitar playing lessons, other guitar and music related stuff. And I've been plugging away at it for a good long while, and I've just never been able to get past like this 2,000 subscriber mark. And there was a time actually where I was monetized, but of course with the monetization cliff that happened, was it last year? I guess it was, or was it 2017? It was 2018. Yeah. They took that away, so I'm no longer making any money from the channel at all. And I mean, I only ever made like a few $100, so like it wasn't a thing that I'm not missing a whole lot. But it really kind of helped me put into focus. Where last year I was like, okay, I'm really going to do it. I'm going to get my subscriber up. I'm going to get my hours up, and like I'm really going to push. And I went through 7 or 8 months where I was like putting out 2-3 pieces of content every week. And like, it was like just spinning my wheels, like nothing was happening. I wasn't like, with a few exceptions of people that I know here in town and a few, other people kind of around the world that have kind of stuck with me and watched content as I put it out. But for the most part, just nothing, no traction. Like the algorithm doesn't like me, or people don't like me, or whatever it is. So I'm kind of getting to that point now where I'm like, okay, I have to kind of face the facts, and it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Because obviously what I've been doing hasn't worked, right? So do I shift completely into an entirely new project and an entirely new channel and just shut down the Samurai Fingers thing? Or do I just kind of keep it and let it stew and occasionally put out stuff? Because I still am working on like a guitar build project right now. Like I do plan on seeing that out. Or do I just kind of shift gears in that channel, rebrand it under my name, and start putting out my new content? Because I have this thing in the back of my mind. I'm still kind of stewing about it, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what path to take with it. But I'm like, okay, well, could I just do that on the current channel? But I think then that would alienate that audience that's already there, and they're not going to like that, and that's fine. But I'm thinking it would probably be better just to have a whole new channel.
It would come down to how much traffic you're really kind of getting with what you have now. So, I mean, if you are, if your videos are, 3, 4, 5 years old and they're generating, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views on a monthly basis, and it continues to do that, maybe just leave it as is and go on to a new thing, because there is definitely some life to it. Mm-hmm. And you probably don't want to divert too far.
Yeah.
That would be probably my advice there. Or if it's completely flatlined and you get, a couple hundred views, a month or less than 1,000, it's not really going to matter.
Yeah, exactly. I think for the most part, I was just looking at my.
But the name, I think, is the important thing. I personally, I saw the tweet. I like the name. I like the brand. I think it's well put together. To me, it's time to shelf it. Like you shelf it. If you put out a music thing and you want to throw it up there, great.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, I have another channel that's actually branded off my photography. I just shelved it because it wasn't going anywhere and I wasn't producing enough photography stuff. I didn't shut it down completely. I just kind of, it's there. It still gets subscribers. It still gets the odd views. But I move stuff over to my monetized channel because it's more advantageous for me,
of course, to
get the views there, because then I get paid at the end of the day.
And I think that's probably where I'm going with it. Like, cause I still do, it generates anywhere from, I think the average is about 25,000 views a month right now, but that's not anywhere near enough to actually reach that monetization threshold. But there's still value that it's providing. That some of those videos,
should be getting close.
It's getting close. But again, some of those videos are only like 2 minutes long, and there's like little things. So it's like time, the views are there, but the time isn't necessarily there. Because a lot of those, especially early videos when I was doing lesson stuff, it's like, here's 30 seconds of here's a cool lick, or a minute and a half, here's a cool lick, and then pull it apart, whatever. So I think it's going to get shelved, and I think I'm going to do an entirely new
and the thing is with that is, even when you shelf it, it's still active. So at some point,
I could pick it back up.
You get your email and, something has blown up, and then it's launched itself again. And then that might be time to jump back in. Yeah. That's, I think with, if you're an individual creative and you have a lot of flexibility like myself, I do different things. I do a plethora of things, and I do what I want to do kind of when I want to do it. And, when I get bored of something, I'll move away from it. Or if I get frustrated with something, I'll move into something different. It's always good to kind of like go through that. Like, I mean, most people don't spend their entire career in their life working at one job anymore for one person and one company. It's not, the 1950s anymore where you go, I'm done high school, I'll go to the factory and I'll get a job and I will work from sweeping the floors up to being the CEO, and that is the span of my career. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't happen anymore. No, absolutely not. And I think there's a point, there's a really cool, interesting story from the beginning days of Apple, when Steve Jobs and his development team went to take a meeting with Xerox, and Xerox showed them this cool new thing called a graphic user interface, that you could use this new device called a mouse to select things on this little LCD screen on the photocopier, to select your copy size and whatever else. And they left there, and Steve Jobs basically said to his team, we have to buy that technology and we have to implement it into our new computers. And this was at the height of the Apple II when it was doing fantastically well. They were in the middle of producing or getting ready to launch the Lisa, if you remember that thing, which was a complete flop, and they ended up killing it. But they were in that process, and they're like, well, we've already put all this time and money and whatever else into this Lisa project. And he's like, it doesn't matter. This is the future. And they're like, Steve, this is going to blow up the entire company. And he said, it's better that we should blow up the company than our competition blows it up for us. And then that decision led to the Mac.
Yeah.
You know, so it's these, I mean, not that I'm saying like I'm a Steve Jobs, but you know, there's a lesson to be learned there.
Absolutely.
You know, you have to learn you have to learn to look at things and kind of go, okay, well that thing's time is done. Right? Or my time doing this thing is done. And I talk to people out there too, in terms of like your job. You know, I feel like 2019 is this year, and maybe it's because I'm turning 40. But I feel like 2019 is this year where I have to like face some realities and go, you know what? I really don't like my job. You know, I don't love my job. I shouldn't say I don't like it. I don't love it. I like it. It's okay. The benefits are good. The pay is decent. You know, I like the people I work with, you know, that kind of thing. But I don't love it. And I haven't loved it for a long time. And it's like, okay, now it's time. I need to figure something else out. And I need to blow up my business.
Yeah.
And figure out the next path. Because if I don't do it now, it's never going to happen. And then I'm like SOL, you know? Because nobody wants to hang around and you know, and or hire like a, you know, 60-year-old that's like trying to start over. Like that ain't gonna happen. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like that's where I'm at, and I gotta.
I don't know about that. You know, it's an interesting, you know, saying that somebody won't look at somebody that's 60, and you know, you hear that as you get older, people don't really want to look at you. I find most people that I interact with, I mean, number one, don't realize how old I am. They think I'm like 30 something, which is it's a huge compliment.
Yeah,
because I'm most definitely not that young. You know, but I think it's all in your approach and your attitude and how you are, and you know, it's, you know, your willingness to learn and do things. And I don't think age is an issue at all. Right? I
suppose probably is. If you're not doing like a physically demanding job, maybe is.
Yeah, I mean,
if
you want to be a scaffolder tomorrow or a bricklayer, probably.
Yeah, no, I'm not interested in.
Not going to go that way. You know, because you definitely have to have the physical attributes. You know, myself, like if I went to go slog scaffolding all day long, I'd be dead by Thursday.
Sure, yeah. Well, let's don't slog scaffold then, shall we? I suppose you're right. It's not that the older you get, the less people are going to look at you. And I feel like, I think the older you get, the more life experience you have and the more valuable your brain is. So your movement through a corporate ladder, if you call it that, or if you want to look at it that way, should be to continue moving up. But to your point earlier, those sorts of things aren't happening anymore. As we age and we're getting older and older as a species, those CEOs, the managers, the lead managers, the directors, the VPs, they're staying in those positions longer and longer and longer. And there's only one of those positions, and there's like 5 or 6 or 10 people that are jockeying for it as well. You know, so I think ultimately part of what I'm learning as well, because I've been going through a lot of self-reflection over the past couple weeks, couple months, is that I'm not really cut out for that corporate world. Like I really thought that that's kind of what I wanted to do. Like I was going to get in on the ground floor.
Well,
and work my
that's
way
what
up.
people are sold.
I think, right? But I felt like, you know, like it's my journey. I want to get to the top, and I want to be a great leader.
I think we're sold that from an early age. I honestly believe that. I think that, you know, especially North American society. And for those people listening, I don't sound very Scottish, but I am Scottish, and I lived in Europe for a long time. And, you know, even coming here, you know, it's a different way of life. I find that North America likes to work itself to death.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know where it sort of came from. Maybe it's because that, people immigrated here, came and they had nothing and they had to build everything. So there's that, sort of bread. You've got to build.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting because I think everybody is, America is the place. You can have the dream. You can start with nothing. You can build whatever you want. That's something that's been
the Wild West, even, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, it's, move to America, all your dreams will come true.
Right.
And I don't think it's true, but you definitely sold it.
Yeah.
100%. And I don't think it's necessarily a healthy thing either.
Yeah.
That's, a lot of these people, and again, Gary, we talk about Gary Vee a fair bit. But, one of his things is like I sometimes question balance in that man's life.
Sure.
He loves what he does. No word of a doubt that he loves what he does. I would venture he's a workaholic, and I would venture
seems that way.
I would venture that his life family balance isn't very good. He doesn't talk about his family a ton, but my guess is that his significant other is likely a very understanding individual and just kind of lets
him do his thing.
Lets him run. But, it'll be interesting because I wonder at what time that guy kind of burns out.
Yeah, if ever. I don't know.
He's probably just that unique individual that can go like that. But I think sometimes, his advice is, work, 15, 16, 18, 20 hours a day.
Right.
No.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Like, and this is what I'm saying. Like, so I've really, really, truly come to realize that like the corporate life and moving up that ladder is not something that I want to do. I still feel like I want to inspire people. Yeah. I feel like I would that either from a leadership specific perspective or teaching people to lead, I think could be a really good thing for me. And I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to get there yet. But so a little bit about my background, actually. So 20 years ago, I went to school to be a teacher. And I spent 4 years, I actually did a specialized 4-year drama and education concurrent program.
Could be prime minister.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't think I haven't thought about it. But I spent, my entire undergraduate career learning how to mold and shape minds and how to teach and how to be an effective leader, essentially, from the front of the classroom. And, because it was also, drama was my focus. It's like, you sit in circle and we do role plays and, whatever. And a lot of things that I'm seeing in corporate culture now are trying to take advantage of some of those learning styles that I learned about and practiced so much. But the delivery of them sucks because the people that are delivering them are like managers and like corporate, I don't even know what they call them, learning specialists or whatever. But none of these people, at least in my experience, and I'm sure there's some companies that have great learning specialists, but the companies that I've been exposed to have horrible HR departments and horrible people that know nothing about education. And they've taken a couple one-day seminars on like adult education principles, and now suddenly they think they're amazing teachers. And it's like, no, you really don't know your ass from a hole in the ground. So I feel like that could still be a really good place for me to, like I said, mold people's mind, lead them, teach them. The biggest problem that I feel like, people don't quit jobs. They quit managers. They quit the environment that they're in.
Absolutely.
And I think the big problem that I see a lot of times in a corporate structure anyway, or in a business structure, is that you spend as like a entry-level employee, let's say, like creating widgets. Your entire job is to create widgets and get good and get efficient at creating that widget, so that your day one, you maybe make half a widget. By the end of the week, you can make one widget. By the end of week 2 or 3, you're making 2 widgets a day, et cetera, right? Yeah. So you get really good. But then what does the corporate structure do? They take the very best widget maker and say, oh, well, you make great widgets. You're going to be the manager now. And plunk. Now suddenly that person is in charge of 15 other widget makers. But all they know how to do is make widgets. They don't get any training on how to be a manager, how to be a leader, how to be somebody that inspires people. Anyway, these are some of the thoughts that are kind of running through my head.
It's true. If you look at baseball,
Do I have
and
to?
batting.
No, I'm just kidding. Good enough.
And you look at batters, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people struggle with batting.
Okay.
Especially pitchers. Pitchers tend to be the most horrid batters in the world. I can't remember if it's the ML, the NLB or the AL, whichever one. The pitchers actually have to bat.
Okay.
But some of the best batting coaches in baseball are former pitchers. Because they sucked at batting. They were so terrible that they had to technically learn. They had to go because they were in a league where they had to bat.
Right.
And they had to practice and work on it and, figure it out and understand, exactly how to hit the ball and, how to time, how to step, all these kind of things and what to make them a better batter.
Right.
Whereas a guy like a Barry Bonds or a Mark McGwire or these guys that just walk up and smash a ball out of the park because they're enhanced anyways, but they don't have to put any thought. A lot of times when you have natural talent, this is my honest belief, I think that anybody can do anything. I think anybody in this world can do whatever they want to do.
Sure, absolutely.
It just depends on how much energy, time, and if you're really bad at something, it's going to take you a long time, a lot of effort, and a lot of probably failure along the way to get to a certain point. But you can do it. I honestly believe that. If you want something bad enough, you can do it.
Yeah, of course, you're going to put in the time.
But there are people that, it's like you give them something and they can just do it.
Yeah.
Those typically are the worst people in the world.
Yeah.
To teach anything. So your best widget maker, he's the best, naturally talented, gifted. He doesn't even know how he does it. He just does it.
Yeah.
And he can't even fathom why you can't.
Yeah.
So he can't even help you.
Right.
Because he doesn't even know how to make the mistakes that you're making because he's never made those mistakes.
Right.
And that makes him an ineffective leader. Unless he is a gifted person that can basically, deconstruct what he does.
Right.
Some people are very good at that as well.
To
Some
deconstruct
very, very
and then go back to the
intelligent people, they're like, I can do this. Well, how do you do that? Well, you just do it, But some very intelligent people will go back and they'll be able to, deconstruct and say, this is how you do it step by step by step.
Yeah.
Again, teachers, and really, really gifted people will be able to go into such detail that they can accelerate you to get to their level like that. And those are phenomenal people.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And they exist. But, I think it's an interesting thing, that you're saying. And I think the vast majority of thing, and again, North American culture, he's the best, promote him. He does the best work. If you work really hard, you'll get to the top, you'll get promoted if you work hard.
Well, and that's the thing, and I feel like a lot of times those people shouldn't be managers, right? But they are, because that's the corporate culture that we have here of promote the top guy. But, I'm sure you've had managers that we'll follow you, we'll listen to you because we have to. You're in charge and you are, the boss, as it were. So like we have to respect the position, but they're not a leader. And then there's people on the floor, as you're saying, that can actually naturally do it and naturally lead other people and help them and instruct them. And those people are leaders even though they have no authority.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I feel like there's something there that I haven't quite grasped how to deal with it yet or what to do with it, but I feel like there's something pulling me. And as cheesy as it sounds, I've always responded really well to Tony Robbins on TV. Right?
He was just here, wasn't he?
I think he's coming this next week or something like that. But like that kind of thing, like motivational and inspirational speaking has always been something back in my mind. I remember sitting in the high school, like I was in grade 9, and we were all called to the gymnasium, and we had like this motivational speaker who was like this old boxer / alcoholic, turned his life around and turned into a motivational speaker. So he was there to teach us about don't do drugs because it'll fuck up your life kind of thing. And here's my story. I used to be this great boxer.
But
I can't even remember his name.
Successful.
Yeah. But do what I say, not what I do kind of thing or whatever. But I remember seeing that talk and going, wow, that was really cool. And he pulled kids up from the audience and had them do, various things and like stuff that you would like. My one buddy, Justin, he was on the wrestling team with me and he brought Justin up. Justin was like twice the size I am. We used to call him the Hulk. And he gave him like a piece of rebar with like a towel. And he's like, okay, you're going to put this behind your head and you're going to bend the bar. And everybody's like, no way, you're not gonna be able to do it. And of course, you know, with the adrenaline and the crowd, like everybody cheering him on, and I don't know, whatever the guy said to him or whatever, of course, he was able to bend it. And like, this is like a, you know, a 14-year-old kid. Like, that's not something, like, whatever the physics of it is, it was something impressive to see. And I think the takeaway from it was something like, you know, next time you think you can't do something, I want you to go to your closet and take a look at this and hit yourself over the head with it, you know, like that kind of thing. But I remember thinking about that going, wow, that's really cool. I'd love to do that job. I'd love to do that thing. And I don't know, somewhere along the way, over my growing up and my going to university and changing and trying to, you know, and getting into music and being successful at that for a little while. And then life and meeting my wife and being overseas, like, kind of life happens and you get away from it. But I've always felt like that's something that I could do and I could bring value to people for. I'm just not sure on the message yet.
I believe in you, Nick. You can bend rebar too over your neck.
Fair enough. I bet you I could now. now that I'm back to the gym and working out on a regular basis, I could crush it.
Yeah. No, but again, you know, back to my point. I think anybody can do exactly what they want to do. They just have to dedicate the time.
Just dedicate the time and put it in and start doing it, right?
Know?
And getting to it, you know, not talking about it. But
you know, it's there's a philosopher. His name's Alan Watts. I don't know if you've ever listened to his, you know, and he's, you know, very simplistic approach to things. He'll say that, you know, people don't grow up saying, I want to sit at a desk, or I want to do this. I want to be a painter. I want to be this, you know, and a lot of times we conform and do what we think we should be doing versus what we want to do.
Yeah.
And that just sends us down a path that, you know, at the end, you're kind of like, why did I go this way?
Yeah.
You know, to the same extent, you know, you can do that and still do what you love, you know.
Yeah, of course.
I often say to a lot of people, like, oh man, my job, you know, I hate it and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, what about the rest of your life? Well, I don't do anything. Like, what do you want to do? Well, I want to kayak. Do you kayak now? No, I don't kayak now. Why not?
Right.
You have a job. It can pay for kayaking and kayaking chips and all this kind of stuff. Why don't you do that first?
And then see how your life's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then see if you truly love it.
Yeah.
And then go from there. You
right.
know, it's, I think, you know, I said, I think people get lost. They get lost.
Yeah.
And they get caught in a groove, and then they get upset, and then they forget the positive aspects of their life. It's, you know, do the positive things that you want to do. Yes, sometimes you have to work crappy jobs. I've worked tons of crappy jobs.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've told everybody the coffee cup story, you know, me working as a barista, which, you know, people think is hilarious, but, you know, I hated that job. I hated that job. And
as you would.
But at the end of the day, you know, at that time, it helped me do the things that I wanted to do, you know, and, you know, sometimes, you know, if you're just spending a few hours doing something that you love doing for the rest of the day, just to kind of make ends eat, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, absolutely. But I mean, especially when you come into alignment with something that you're meant to do, I think it's important to focus your energy in that, in whatever way, even if it's small to start. But at some point, there's going to be a point where you shouldn't be spending your time doing other things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think a full-time job really gets in the way of chasing that dream or chasing that thing that you're meant to be doing. Yeah. And I don't think I'm at that point yet, because I'd have a job that takes care of bills and pays my mortgage and, you know, pays for food and glasses and my truck and, you know, whatever. And those are all good things. But I think the point where I'm at, and it could be, again, it's just like that 40 midlife crisis thing, I guess. But I've spent so long, like the past decade, trying to run away from discomfort. I've spent 10 years trying to get comfortable, trying to have a safe, steady income, a safe place to live. I don't have to chase stuff down. And I finally got it. And I'm bored out of my mind.
Yeah.
Right?
And you see, that's where I agree with Gary Vaynerchuk, right?
Yeah.
If you have the job and you have the capacity to make money, make that money.
Yeah.
It's only 8 hours a day. Most of the time, unless you got something, unless you're crushing like crazy hours at work and you have to work overtime and forced overtime.
I do 10 to 12, but
then ditch that shit, because you know, it's like, it's too much when it starts ruling your life. It's too much. But you know, if you work 9 to 5, you get home 5:00, eat dinner, 6:00. You have from 6 till probably at least 10, 11 o'clock at night. You can do whatever you love for that 5 hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can still put in, if you do it 5 days a week, a 25-hour work week. Once you get that to a point, if you're looking at it from a business perspective, where it starts to make money and it's tipping the balance and it's working well.
Yeah.
That's the time.
That's the time to switch over.
Other thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
100%.
I think a lot of people nowadays, and I think where the message is kind of lost on a lot of people, is that I hate my job. I'm going to quit and I'm going to do this. And they start from zero with nothing.
Yeah.
And again, back to the other podcast, have zero business experience, really don't know what they're getting into. And then that's a whole, money causes a lot of stress for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I'm saying, you can't just kind of jump with no safety line.
I suppose there, and depending on where you are in your life, that could be the solution.
Yeah.
Because sometimes necessity is the mother of invention,
Yeah.
and jumping off with no net and no way of knowing how the hell you're going to do what you want to do, sometimes that can be the right move. I would wager it probably is when you're in your early 20s or mid 20s, that's an okay time to do it. Like now, you got a house and whatever else going on, like in a family, it's like, maybe not.
Yeah.
So you need the more moderate approach, but, yeah, doing that thing, putting in the time, putting in the work, and then making the intelligent shift. Yeah. I think one of the other guys, I don't know if you've ever read any Jordan Peterson.
No.
So he's a University of Toronto professor. He was embroiled like 2 years ago in this big controversy because he refused to call students they or them or gender neutral pronouns, whatever, because the university told him he had to. And he's like, no, that's forced speech. I will not comply.
Yeah.
In the same breath, though,
I already like the guy.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing, though, right? Like, as a libertarian. Libertarian?
Yeah, libertarian.
Yeah. It's like, you do you, as long as you're not hurting me, I don't give a shit, right?
And that's exactly it. And that's my...
And so what his point was, is if a student comes to me and requests that I call them they, them, Bob the Blue Smurf,
I bet you'd do it.
He said 100% I will do it, but I will not comply if the university tells me I have to, because that is an infringement on my free speech, and your right not to be offended does not override my right to free speech.
Yeah.
Nor does my right to be offended override your right to anything.
100% agree.
Right? So anyway, but that's what blew him up, and that was his moment. He's a psychology professor, and he's a clinical psychologist, and he's written books for the past 30 years. So his latest book is called The 12 Rules for Life. And it just so happened that this thing blew up, and now his book has gone like quadruple bazillion copies, and it's been translated into 150 languages and like all this stuff. And like he really took the ball and ran with it. Good for him. But one of his points, getting back to kind of the way I've been feeling, and it's odd how these things kind of pop into your life as you need to hear them. But one of his things was the biggest. Life is a shit show. And it's full of misery and full of tyrants and full of malevolence. The only thing that will help you cope and fix it is taking on more responsibility and taking more chances and taking control of your life, not being comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Not being comfortable and not being happy with the status quo. The more you have to take more stuff on to be able to be productive and be able to move forward. And not only that, you actually owe it to the species to be productive and to reach your full potential, because by you doing that, you put those positive things out into the world, and it affects everybody around you. You're just one node in a massive network.
Yeah.
And I'm probably mangling his message, but that's kind of what I got out of it. And I'm like, it's amazing, and I'm thinking about this again, going back to that thing, like I've spent so long just trying to be stable and comfortable that I've really just like shot myself in the foot.
And it's a hard thing for people to deal with, is to give up that stability. A good example actually is my wife. My wife used to be a human resource person.
Yep.
Corporate
human resource people.
Yeah. Corporate environment. And, she ended up not wanting to do that. And she wasn't happy where she was. And, I just said to her, like, what do you want to do? She's like, well, I kind of want to work at a hospital. I want to work with people. And that's a complete,
complete shift, right?
Complete shift, right?
Yeah.
And I want to do these things, and that's it. But I don't want to just up and leave. Like, I can't just up and leave.
Right.
And it's like, but you can.
Right.
And when I say safety net, I mean, there was still a safety net,
Sure.
We're obviously a team and we're working together.
Yeah,
So
of course.
like, you can go do whatever. If you don't have a job, we have enough to cover the bills. You take the time, you seek out what you want, go get it.
Yeah.
And she did.
Nice.
Right? It took a while. Like, I mean, there was a time where she had to work casual for a long time, and then she worked part-time, and then she got a full-time position, and then, kind of worked that way. But again, it's, you can make those changes happen. It's just,
entirely
being responsible about it. Like, I mean, I would have never said that if she was by herself, to just like drop everything and like, tomorrow,
of course,
see if you can go get a job. And when they say no, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But, because the opportunity was there, take it,
Yeah, of course.
And again, when the balance switches, it's, you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, I think people are just scared. Like, she was really, really scared.
Yeah.
To take that move because she was so used to working full time in a human resources department, which is
sure.
Those places are crazy to begin with. You know, and it very much, it's like, oh, you have to do this, and you have this, all this stuff. All your ducks have to be in a row in those places.
For sure.
To move out of that and just drop it is like, I mean, very proud of her for that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
She's able to make that, and she's much happier for that.
Right.
Because and the funny thing is ultimately because it was Sears that she used to work for.
Ah, okay. Well, and that was a good move.
Yeah. Big corporation, big office, lots of people, tons of people.
Yep.
And look what happened to that company. It's done. So I mean, hindsight, looking back at it now, she really knows she made the right move.
100% the right decision, right? Yeah.
And it's funny, she had been with that company forever. She started working, I think, in the warehouse in Saskatchewan.
Wow.
Filling boxes for mail order stuff years and years
back
ago.
Back in the catalog days.
And worked her way up.
Yeah.
But when she got to where the pinnacle was, she wasn't happy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, kind of come full circle, I guess, in a sense.
Absolutely.
It's... I just say, and I'm not necessarily the best person to give advice in this world,
Sure.
But
to anybody,
it's,
right?
My advice is always like, do what you want to do what you love. And, just, if you hate it that much, like, move on. Like, it's life's too short.
Life's too short, and things have a tendency to work themselves out.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, like, things will come together.
Yeah.
They always do. They have to, or you die. And
exactly.
You know what? That's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
That's another one of Jordan Peterson's things too. Like, one of his lectures is, you will die.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
and I tell
realize that.
And we talked about it in the first season, death is a very good motivator and helps, in my case in particular, for clarity. Of what, your life is about and what you want to do and how you want to go about things. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you go almost kill yourself to have that experience, but I'm just saying that, once you come to that, once you accept the fact is that your time is limited and that there is a definitive end and you don't necessarily control when that end comes, and you can feel like $1 million today and it can end tomorrow.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Just go do what you want to do. Yeah. Life's way too short.
Yeah, right. Well, that's a pretty good note to end on, I think.
Yeah.
Life's short.
Yeah.
Do
what you
cool
love.
stuff.
Yeah.
Do what you love. Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks very much. I know this we rambled a little bit on this one, but I feel like it was a good topic and something interesting. Leave us some feedback. Let us know what you think, how things are going for you guys out there. Because I feel like this is something that a lot of us feel. And again, I keep saying 40. It's just because that happens to be my next birthday coming up. But I mean, I feel like...
You're not even 40 yet?
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
October.
Such a kid.
I know, right? But I feel like it's something that a lot of us feel, and I feel like maybe even younger and younger because of the internet and because of social media. Like, people are feeling this probably earlier.
I think a lot of people, when you start hitting, like, I think the sort of the rounded numbers. When you hit 20,
Right.
You hit 40.
Yeah.
Or 30, 40, 50, 60, all those kind of rounded numbers.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, has a huge impact on people, and to be honest, it means like
it means nothing. Absolutely. I mean, I remember we talked about this in season 1 too. Is like I don't feel any different now than I did when I was like 23. I got a few aches and pains and things, but like I still feel like me.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm any older or like anything. It's just perspective. I don't know. Your mind plays tricks on you sometimes.
Absolutely.
You know. Anyway, I've been Nick.
I'm JD.
This is the Dudecast. We'll see you on the next one.
See ya.